Yo, what up, Fight Camp Squad? It's your boy Mike Rashid. Special edition today. So you know we are on the cusp of a huge fight. A fight that many could say should have happened about 30 years ago, but whatever, it's happening now. Two legends clashing, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Wow. Mike Tyson, in my opinion, in his prime, was a perfect heavyweight. Kryptonite to any heavyweight, any big fighter, is a smaller fighter in the same weight class, especially with heavyweights. Your long reach is null and void. When a guy is inside, he stays in your chest. Typically, the smaller guy is faster. With heavyweights, both men are going to be strong and powerful. So a smaller, faster, powerful, explosive guy is kryptonite to big heavyweights. And that's who Mike Tyson was to so many of his opponents. If you look at his career, the guys that he was knocking out, obliterating, were bigger than him. The guys that he had problems with, like Evander Holyfield, were close to the same size as him, right? Within an inch or two. Of course, he got beat by Lennox Lewis, but Lennox caught him way after, you know, he had to get out of the game for 3 years. It wasn't an ideal time for Mike Tyson. His mind wasn't right, and he had a huge layoff. So, but let's talk about him in his prime. He was a wrecking machine. I do believe that Mike Tyson in his prime was invincible. I don't see anybody in the history of boxing being able to stop his onslaught. Now, Muhammad Ali is my favorite all-time fighter, one of my favorite people of all times. But I do not think that Muhammad Ali in his prime could have beat a Mike Tyson in his prime. And I have proof, somewhat of proof. It's somewhat anecdotal, but y'all could tell me for yourselves. There was a phenomenal heavyweight, phenomenal. Now, I'm gonna qualify it by saying this. Mike Tyson, a lot of the guys he dispatched in such a fashion to where you just forget about them. But these guys were legends in their own right. They just happen to be in the same era as Mike Tyson, unfortunately. If a lot of these guys were fighting now, they'd be champions, hands down. So one in particular is Tyrell Biggs. Now, I'm bringing him up because he is very similar to Ali. He echoed Ali big time. What made Ali special was he's a big man, but he was light on his feet. Flicking that jab out, very unorthodox. It's called dancing. It's not running, it's called dancing, right? He stay on his feet, jab, jab. He's able to keep a guy out at bay, come in, you know, hit him with the right, left hook. It was just beautiful. It was really beautiful to see a big man so graceful, right? Now, Tyrell Biggs was a lot bigger than Ali, just as fast, hit harder, longer reach. And when he went in to fight Mike Tyson, he fought a beautiful fight. It looked like he had all of the chops to win. Okay, with Muhammad Ali's blueprint, keep in mind. And when he executed, it was literally perfect. However, what Mike Tyson brought to the game was more than just his physical prowess. He had a different type of switch, a type of on switch that you can't turn off. He wanted to win. He wanted to dominate. He wanted to crush. Mike Tyson in the boxing ring had the spirit of Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey was a small heavyweight. But Jack Dempsey was a killer. Every punch he threw with bad intentions. He wasn't trying to win on points. He had no interest in that. He was trying to crush everybody that stood in front of him. And that's how he fought, with that intensity. Guess what? Mike Tyson in his prime fought the exact same with way more physical prowess than Jack Dempsey. So imagine how much more devastating it is. When you have a mind state of winning, it's different. When it's like not even conceivable that you can lose, it's different. And that was Mike Tyson in his prime. Let's fast forward to Roy Jones Jr. This is another guy that I think in his prime was un-F-wittable, unbeatable, is bulletproof. He was one of my favorites because of a few reasons. He was very, very entertaining to watch. He always brought a show. Listen, boxing is called prize fighting. It's entertainment. So these guys are putting on a show. So whenever his ring entrance was always dope, always entertaining, right? And when he got in the ring, man, his confidence exuded himself. His reputation preceded him. So guys were a little bit intimidated. And when he was in the ring, it was just beautiful. It was mastery. He never got his full credit because he made really good guys look so ordinary. It's not his fault that he was that good. You know, he fought with his hands down. He did all of the wrong things, but he did it so well. Very unorthodox, has speed, and what I love about Roy Jones Jr. is he had one punch knockout power. He knocks people to sleep. And there's a difference. Y'all gotta look at this. A guy can have a lot of knockouts on his records. Let's say Gennady Golovkin, who's a great fighter, who I love. However, he doesn't have the punching power that they give him. Gennady Golovkin is not a guy who can touch somebody and they go to sleep. He overwhelms them with hard thudding shots. They either quit, or the referee stops the fight, or they get knocked down 3 times. But when you have one punch knockout power, that's power. When you can touch somebody and they go to sleep. Roy Jones have given people seizures in the ring. It's happened. It's scary. It's freaky. That's one punch knockout power, and I rate that high in boxing. It's different. So he had that, Roy Jones. He had the defense. He's a dog. He could fight. He beat some of the best, some of the greatest. And this is what's very special about him. He started his career, I believe, at junior middleweight and won titles all the way up to heavyweight. That is something that has never happened before him nor after him. That's very special. That's a unique characteristic of Roy Jones Jr. He holds that record, and you know, that says a lot. And when he beat the heavyweight champion, he made him look, he beat him every round. It was an easy win for him. So my hat goes off to Roy Jones Jr. You know you're gonna get excitement when you saw him fight. Now let's go back to Mike Tyson. Once again, it's not gonna be a boring fight with him, whoever he fought. And I gave a lot of credit to Roy Jones Jr.'s ring walks, but you wanna see something wildly entertaining without even trying? Look at this fight when Mike Tyson fought Michael Spinks.
This heavy metal sound that you hear is Mike Tyson about to make his way in, I believe.
He didn't wear a robe, nothing fancy. He just walked out. A mob around him trying to keep up. These fights were huge events, just so many people there. I think he set a record, maybe 30, 40 million he made for that fight. This is in the 90s. That was unheard of type of money. No music, just a long, like a low end sound, like a bass sound that was constant. And you heard like the clanking of like bottles or chains or something. It was so intimidating. And then his opponent is in the ring, right? Watching him come, this little muscular, intense man dripping with sweat, because Mike Tyson, he works up a big sweat before he comes out there. He's already worked up. And to watch him come out serious, locked in, think about the mental battle that's already won. The guys in the ring watching him come. Just like the fans are watching, getting intimidated, so is he. It's amazing. You have two men who both were equally as polarizing, but with completely different attributes. And now we're about to see them in the ring, clashing. I can't believe this is happening. Both men are in their 50s, which is okay. One thing about Roy Jones Jr. is he's been fighting up until about 2 years ago. So he's still in decent shape, and he's training guys. He's in the ring with these guys, moving around, he's sparring, he's doing everything he needs to do to stay in shape. He loves it that much, and he's that close to it. He's hands-on, so his conditioning is still there. This is a different time. Like, being 50 nowadays is different than being 50, 20, 30 years ago. You know, people know how to eat right, the right nutrition, and then training the body right. But let's talk about training, because I was just with Mike about 8 months ago, and Mike Tyson was not in shape at all. And he had no interest in even hitting the gym and working out, right? He was just so over it. But now you look at him now, he's a physical specimen. Why? Because of technology and intelligence with training. So shout out to Brad. He's working with Mike with a machine that I'm gonna dive into. I wanna show y'all some of the training outside of just the boxing training, some of the strength training that Mike is doing, which is high tech, to get his body to what you see now from where it was 7, 8 months ago. The transformation is insane, it's wild, it's fascinating. But I've done this a few times, and listen, I'm a believer, it's dope. So Fight Camp Squad, come with me. We're gonna go down to Costa Mesa to Earned Performance Center. We're gonna meet up with my boy Kai Daly. He's a coach. He's dope. He's my guy. He's a good friend of mine. Very well educated, and he knows his SHI. You know the rest. So he's gonna put me through the machine, and I'm gonna train like Mike Tyson. So we about to get high tech. We're gonna use some technology to stay ready and get in shape. I'm here with a special guest today, a good friend of mine, the owner of Earned Performance Center. How you doing? My name?
Good, mate.
I'm about to say my name is Kai.
My name's Mike Rashid.
And I'm Kai.
This is Kai.
Kai Daly. I'm from Australia, mate. So check it out. So Kai is a good friend of mine. He's a really well-known dude in the industry. He knows his stuff. Got a lot of respect for him. He has a device here that he actually used on me to help me out because I've been having some shoulder issues, and it's also the same identical machine that Mike Tyson is using for a lot of his strength training, I guess.
Yeah.
Preparing for his fight coming up against Roy Jones Jr. So Kai, I want you to explain what this machine is, what it does, and then I'll be a guinea pig.
Yeah, awesome.
I want to train like Mike.
Well, I mean, a lot of people really do. So the huge benefit to this machine is the fact that it really taps into the mind to muscle connection. And that's a really important thing for a lot of people when it comes to training, because at the end of the day, if you're not tapping into that mind to muscle connection, you're typically relying on a lot of joint, you're typically relying on a lot of the body's full response. And if you don't have that mind to muscle connection, you're never going to get the most out of the muscle. So what the machine does is it not only works with an intensity percentage, but it also works with a complete and utter mind muscle connection. So you're really triggering that nervous pathway that's going from the brain straight into the muscle that you're trying to use. And at least that way we know that you're getting a full functionality from that muscle tissue. A lot of people struggle really hard in getting a good connection with muscle. So this machine literally helps any person to adapt 100% capacity in creating a good connection with that muscle tissue. So
okay, that sounds all good and all, but layman's terms, please.
Layman terms is really simple. We're just going to get nasty pumps, and it's just going to trigger it and make it happen. So at the end of the day, you don't really need to think too much. You're just going to work through some motion, feel the muscle work, and get that instant connection. And you guys will see that today with Mike, because he's obviously an athlete, so he does have good muscle tissue density, and you'll be able to see that muscle firing straight from the get-go.
So why do you think Mike Tyson will go to a guy we know, Brad, to get this kind of training or technology?
I think for someone like Mike, who is a little bit older now, and he's been around for a really long time, the best thing about this machine is it creates a lot more longevity, because it does stretch the muscle, but it also contracts the muscle too. So without having to use too much weight and tension against the actual joints and against the bone, you're not going to suffer too badly from an injury.
Right.
When normally if you are lifting weights, we know how easily that can happen.
And it doesn't compromise any integrity of the joints, right?
Absolutely not. So if anything, it actually helps the joints, because it's constantly stretching and elongating the muscle, as well as getting that that really nasty contraction.
I gotta tell you, man, he put me through session Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday, yep.
And listen, I haven't been doing upper body training, just because my shoulder's been hurting. But it seemed like I filled out, like I've been training every day.
Yep.
Right? And that day, I was able to train shoulders, which I hadn't been able to do in some time. And I just been feeling like big.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
like as if that was, all he had me do was push-ups and just some movements. But it felt like with the percentage, I guess, you had on me, it made it so intense, just some regular basic stuff, that it was as if I had just more of a workout than what I actually did.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And the reason is because we're literally tapping into 100% of that muscle tissue's capacity to be able to work and function, because every fiber in that muscle is literally firing all at once at its highest peak. So you would never ever get that lifting weights.
So what do you think, typically, just the average dude that's in good shape, what do you think their muscles are firing at?
Typically, like at a highest percentage, I would say 60 to 70% at best. And I'll use like a professional bodybuilder, for example, someone who has an extremely good mind to muscle connection. We know is Kai Green, or Phil Heath, for even that matter. These guys are genetic specimens, and the reason why their genetics are so much stronger is because they have the capacity to be able to tap into that muscle and really utilize it to the best of its ability.
So them being that high caliber athlete, genetic specimen, etc., they're only getting about 60, 70%.
Yep.
Interesting.
So you could even like.
So
tap
why
into
are we not seeing more people use this?
Because
are they kind of?
I'll be really honest with you. Like it's expensive, but it's also medical equipment. So a lot of the use it's being put forward to is because they're actually using it in the medical space to help treat people who have got muscle atrophy, people who have had accidents who can no longer use certain things. If, say, for instance, you broke your leg, right? Or recently you had the bicep tendon. Okay, so that needs to be rehabilitated. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Okay, that age-old saying, use it or lose it. If your legs begin to atrophy, then the machine can actually bring them back to life because it's creating that constant tension onto the muscle, and it just instantly makes the brain reconnect.
Cool.
So that's what it's mostly used for in the state of rehabilitation. But now they're starting to cross it over with new frequencies into training and making some huge headway in the training industry.
Okay, question. Will this make you strong though?
It would not make you stronger.
Okay.
It will definitely.
You need that real resistance.
It will definitely make you weaker if you just relied solely on the machine.
You look good though.
Exactly. So you're going to look good. It's going to make the muscle tissue stretch out.
You look great, but you'll be a weenie.
Exactly. So it's pretty much like me versus him.
This is nuts. Okay, well, I'm at your disposal, Coach.
All right.
Let's see what we got.
Let's get into it.
Cool.
Easy. All right. So we're going to do a little bit more shoulder work today.
Okay.
We'll also put it on your chest too, because I feel like that's where we're going to get the best sort of response so that people can actually see it.
Does that open me up?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm also going to put some on your back. Okay. So we'll work 2 on the back, 2 on the chest, and 2 on the shoulders.
Can I put this on my abs and just chill and get abs? Does that work?
You can. I've tried it, believe it or not, and it didn't end too well.
I would do it. I would have it on my whole body at home chilling, watching Netflix.
All right, so do you want to do shirts on or shirts off?
Whatever.
Let's go shirts off. I think that's going to be the best so that people can actually see how it
We can just video Photoshop my stomach to have abs.
Okay.
All right, so what are we doing now?
What we're doing is we're actually getting the electrodes onto the skin. So it is a direct electrolysis electrode to the muscle, which is really important because that's actually where the current actually goes through. And we have a positive and a negative, just like anything to do with electricity. So it's always important to make sure that they're in the right spot so that they can trigger the muscle appropriately. And because a lot of Mike's issue actually comes from the chest and shoulder joint, which we identified last week or on Sunday, we know exactly where to put the pads. But for every single person, it works differently on how you actually want to position the pads.
Do you have a lot of people that you use this technique on?
So there's a lot of people that actually use this mostly for rehab.
Okay.
So people who have some challenges with, movement through the body and actually getting a good response with certain muscle tissues. I have a lot of girls that come to me to use this for their glutes specifically.
You love that part. You started a whole new business.
It's not
glute fixing.
It's not a bad job. But it helps girls to identify.
It works really good.
Yeah, it helps girls to identify exactly where.
You got some before and afters?
Definitely have some good before and afters. Mine's actually probably the most impressive out of all of them, believe it or not.
We're not interested in yours.
But that's exactly what people want to see, bro. So the biggest thing is when the science actually gets better for these machines,
be more mobile.
All this stuff will get better.
Like more comfortable.
With time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a bit of a shock, and you guys can see what it will actually look like. And I'll specifically turn on the front section here in Mike so that you can see where most of this muscle is actually going to work. And as we slowly increase, you'll start to see his chest start to move.
Oh, so this is actually training my chest right now. This is actually
what it's actually doing right now is it's creating an adaptation from the brain to that muscle. So it's telling the brain to signal these muscles and telling them to work or switch on to get ready. Because right now we're actually in a stretching phase. Okay, so here it's just creating the muscle tissue's readiness to be able to work. Okay, and how we actually go about doing that is we have a different frequency that we go to, which creates a complete contraction. Now, you can see how it's kind of died down a little bit. It's a lot less crazy, but when I turn it up and we put Mike into a complete chest contraction, you'll see he won't be able to actually control. So now it's like,
Should I not fight it?
no, don't fight it. You're like stuck, right? So if I can now try and fight it now, pull back, try and open up, but it doesn't want to let him because the muscles are completely contracting in the front here. And now we turn it back down.
That's crazy.
So his chest, believe it or not, right now is completely active and ready to work at 100% capacity. So it no longer needs to actually go through warm-ups or anything like that.
Whoa. That's intense.
Yeah, so now it's pulling back as well as pulling forward. So everything on the back side here is now really lit up. You can see in the traps here in the top part, okay, which through the top part of his body here, a lot of the system is really trapped and caught because there's probably a bunch of scar tissue here from years of bench press, heavy dumbbell pressing overhead, and then also, the frequency of boxing and things like that. So it's really important to make sure that all of that gets taken care of, and you can't take care of it unless you start to get work like this, unless you're willing to put in the hours and hours of deep tissue work that's required to make it happen. But what we're going to do is we're going to sync up both the front and the back.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
With the deep tissue stuff. So is this doing the same thing?
As deep tissue?
Yeah, because look, so I went to see the chiropractor yesterday.
Yep.
And he would dig.
Yep.
And pull and stretch, and I felt the benefit.
Yep.
A similar benefit to when you did this on Sunday, but I felt more Sunday than from what he did.
Yes.
It feels limited. Is that accurate?
It's pretty accurate. Like at the end of the day, like you're going to still have the body's ability to be able to move, okay? But deep tissue massage, you have to remember, creates trauma. It actually creates trauma in the muscle tissue where this does not create trauma.
Okay.
It creates lengthening and stretching of the tissue and the fascia, whereas that particular pushing in and digging in and driving in actually creates trauma and blood. Okay, so this does not. It helps to actually expel a lot of inflammation. And typically guys who are getting ready for shows and things like that in their last week or so, instead of actually training, are using this machine to get the last bit of water retention out, to completely deplete themselves of carbohydrates, because that's what the machine does, and then fill themselves back up again. So it's going to deplete, completely stretch everything out, and get the body fully ready to do what it needs to do.
Okay.
So we'll start to see right now the whole system is going to just light up, okay, and work. So the back's on fire, the chest is on, the shoulders are on, and now essentially what we want to do is just go through some basic mobility. So if we turn the hands in and then lift and come up as high as possible, and then drop back out to the side as wide as possible so the chest feels like it's fully stretched out, and then squeeze the chest back in and lift all the way up and through to the roof, and again open out and fully stretch that chest out. And you'll start to see as Mike, keep going. You'll start to see as Mike goes through this, the adaptation will start to become less, okay, and the firing of the muscle tissue will be far less than what it would when he first started, because his body is starting to accept it and it's starting to adapt to that constant, flow of electrical current. All right, so let's get down into the push-up position. We're going to take him into a full contraction, okay? He's on 31 right now, so go down towards the ground, Mike. Stay there, and now come up and go.
Shit.
Light it up.
Just keep going or what?
Yep, you just keep pushing. We're now at 43% intensity. As you can see, he's still working like normal, but as I continue to increase gradually with reps, it's starting to become harder. He's starting to go slower, and that's because that muscle is actually working so much harder than what it normally would. We're at 60% intensity right now. Coming up on 70% intensity. He's still going. 80% intensity, and that'll do it right there.
Woo, shit. Where we at?
We went up as high as 87% intensity, so he still had a further 13% that he could have gone to.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And you can see now he's starting to relax. So if we now flip him over to the 500, okay, which is our original frequency that we were doing for stretching, you can see there's no response. See how it's just dead? That's because it's now got to start to unwind into that stretch mode and start to build out that response again through the stretch. Okay, so let's get those dumbbells up into a starting position. And let's press. Now instantly, Mike's elbows are coming out to the side. What we want to do is want to pull through the lat all the way down to the bottom.
So I'm pulling all the way down?
Yeah, all the way down. So again, we still want to work the back and we want to make sure that we're working the shoulder. So we're pulling through the elbow all the way down, squeezing the lat and pushing straight through because it's a push-pull effect. So push and pull all the way down. Push and pull all the way down. Go 3 more. 1, 2, and 3, and relax.
Oh, forge.
Now, that was on an intensity level of 40 on a stretching phase. The second set we're going to do, we're actually going to put him into a contraction and work with a contraction phase. So this one here will be really, really noticeable in how different the contraction actually looks and how much more limited his capacity is to press. Alrighty, so you ready?
I'm ready.
Grab those dumbbells up. We're going to change that frequency back down to a contraction. Dumbbells up. You ready?
Yep.
In 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Light it up.
I'm going.
I'm going. Pull right down. Pull right down. Good. And drive up hard. Good. Push.
Ooh, shit.
And up. And
Bring it.
let's go. Come on. See how high you can go. Take it for a ride.
Aye.
You ready?
Me and my big mouth. Whoa, okay.
Okay, he's done.
Ooh, what was that?
That was 78.
It's crazy.
And how many reps did you do? I think I counted like
I don't know.
10 or 12
Jeez.
with a 20-pound dumbbell. So that's essentially what the capacity of the machine does. This machine is going to help adapt that muscle tissue to work to its fullest. The maximum amount of sets that you actually need to do with this machine to get the most out of it is 12. Okay, on any
Sets,
body
12
part.
sets?
12 sets on any body part is more than enough
Right.
for any human being to be able to get enough stimulation out of that muscle. And most of the time you can get enough out of 1 or 2. Okay, so for guys like Mike, they might work towards like a 12 set chest workout or 12 set shoulder workout, but nothing more than that because it literally breaks the body down so hard that you want to make sure you're getting off it in time to give the body time to recover too.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I've just been through some shit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, tell everybody how it sort of feels.
Yeah, I could tell the intensity. You feel the intensity increasing, and it just makes it way more difficult to do. It's hard to explain the feeling because it's nothing that I've ever felt in a gym.
Yeah.
But I probably did 20 push-ups. It felt like 100.
Yeah. And
But it felt different. It felt like I'm pushing more than my body weight.
And this is why Mike is doing it, because he can't spend 2 hours in the gym trying to get a response from a muscle tissue.
Right.
He needs to get it quickly, he needs to get it effectively, and he needs to make sure it's safe that
And
he
without
continue to do
without
it.
the wear and tear on his
Exactly.
joints.
So the
I
wear and
get it.
tear is the most important thing.
Right.
Right? Now, if you continue to do stuff like that, the joints will become a lot better, the body becomes a lot looser, and the system itself is just able to accept so much more, so much more freedom and flexibility. So this
I
is
like
exactly
it. I love this. This is great. Listen, that little bit that you saw me do burnt me out straight up. This is what I got out of it. Without any wear and tear on my joints and my ligaments, I got the most intense workout ever, and it's great. It feels amazing. This is how you have longevity, is being intelligent with your training, right? So this is a tactic that Mike Tyson's using. I'm gonna start implementing this in my training from here moving forward. I'm a believer. I've used this technology before a few years ago. I had a issue with my right knee. I thought I needed surgery. It hurt that bad. I met with the guys who actually invented this out in Dallas, Texas, and they put it on me. They had me do a few movements. You know, it was brutal, but guess what? I had no knee pain after that. Miraculous. So I'm a believer, you know. But anyway, before when I was training for fights, I would have to not lift the entire time I'm training for a fight. Now I can lift very lightly using this while doing my boxing training. So this is great, just to give my joints and ligaments a break and still get the benefits of strengthening my body and working my body and opening everything up. It's like you're getting a full body massage, deep tissue, without the trauma of them digging into your body, because that stuff hurts. Shout out to Kai for letting me come down and get plugged up. But this fight is gonna be exciting. I'm not calling a side. I'm gonna just sit back and enjoy it, right? I wanna know who y'all got though. Who you think is gonna win? And why? Let me know why, all right? Fight Camp Squad, we out of here. Peace.